There is no point of you reading a book if you're not going to implement the 7 steps that I'm going to outline in this video. If you pick up a book and you read it without these 7 steps, you're pretty much just wasting your time. I mean, it might be enjoyable if you're actually enjoying it in the moment, but without implementation of these steps, the actual learning and quality of content will not be absorbed. So stay to the end of this video to get all those steps in. Hi, my name is Chelsea Ram. If you are new here, I'm a law school graduate. I have multiple online businesses and multiple online courses for people trying to start online businesses of their own. On this channel, we talk all things well-being and productivity. So if that floats your boat and interests you, stick around. We post twice a week, specifically on Mindful Mondays and Focus Fridays. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. So as previously mentioned, this video will be broken into 7 steps. Step 1, make sure that you are choosing books that actually interest you or fills a need. If you're trying to read a book for analytical purposes and improving your life or learning about something, it is so important that it is relevant to you, because alongside reading comes implementation. And if it's not relevant to where you currently are, that implementation piece will not really be accessible to you. Step 2, if you are just getting into analytical reading, or if reading is something you want to integrate in your life, but you currently do not have it as a habit, it is so important to actually schedule in your reading into your to-do list, into your agenda. Give yourself a deadline. Make sure that you know how many chapters are in the book and that you are plotting it out into your agenda so that every single day at least 1 chapter gets read and actually absorbed into you, so that you ensure that you're making progress on the book consistently and not just like a full spurt of the book here and then a full week off and then another spurt of the book, because information all goes together in a book, and it's really important to make sure you're absorbing that consistently so that you can implement consistently within your life. Step 2 is to actually skim the entire table of contents prior to you opening the book and starting to read chapter 1. It is so important that you know what the book is actually about, which you should gather because you picked the book up, you probably did some research, you know by the title, maybe you even read the back cover, but now it's really important to understand kind of the main points that will be talked about. You don't need to understand the points actually, you just need to know what they are. So the way you're going to do that is by reading the table of contents in full, understanding where the book, what direction the book is going to take you, and then you can move on to step 4, which is skimming the first chapter. So prior to even reading a chapter in a book, in order to actually get the most out of a book when you're analytical reading, it's really important to skim the first chapter, or skim the chapter you're on in its entirety, and get a general idea within a couple minutes of what main points there are, and then you start to read the chapter from the beginning. When I mean skim, I mean, you know, do the whole chapter in a few minutes or less, depending on the book, the way it's going to be structured. For most analytical nonfiction books, it's like this. If you read the first line of a paragraph and then the last line of a paragraph, you'll kind of get the main point of what that paragraph is about to be. So maybe you start with that. If you don't necessarily know how to start with skimming, you can just read the first and last line of every single paragraph, get a general idea of the topics that will be discussed within the chapter, and then you can move on to step 5, which is actually reading the chapter in its entirety. And the whole process of reading the chapter is going to go way smoother because you've done step 4 and you have an idea of what the chapter is going to be about, and you already have been exposed to those main points. Actually, along with step 5 is to use your finger when you're reading. If you do not do this already, it is so important, especially in analytical reading, to keep the pace of your reading consistent so that you're not wasting time over ideas that you're stumbling on, and that you can ensure that you're fully alert and in the moment when it comes to what you're reading. So use your finger and go across the page kind of like this, the way they teach you when you are first starting reading. It's really important to do that and stick to a consistent pace that is steady. And if there is an area in the book which your mind is stumbling on, you'll be able to notice it right away and just keep going. Honestly, typically when we stumble, when we're analytical reading, our mind is able to fill in the blanks and kind of grasp the concept if we move on and we are reading at a good pace, especially after you read all the table of contents, you know what the book's about, and you skim the chapter. Your brain will be able to fill fill in the rest. And if it doesn't at the end of the chapter, then you can go back and reread the part that you stumbled upon, but typically you won't even need to do that. So just use your finger and maintain the pace throughout the entire book. And if you notice there's a lot of places that you're stumbling on, maybe that means that one, you need to skim the chapter again a little bit, or you just need to slow down the pace at which your finger is moving. Step 6 is to take notes. Oh my goodness. If you are trying to get the most out of a book that is nonfiction, or you're reading for analytical purposes, if you are not taking notes in a separate notebook, I do not know what you're doing. You will not just retain the information forever just by reading the book. You need to actually take notes on it and not inside the book. What I find works best for me is taking notes in a separate notebook that contains all the notes from like literally all the nonfiction books that I read. The reason this is really great is because as time goes on, if you're reading lots and lots of books, you may come to a point in your life, let's say 10 years down the road, where there is something that triggers a memory of a book you've read previously, and in that book there was a piece of knowledge that you want to get again and start implementing into your life because you think it's relevant now. You may forget what book you found that in, or there may be multiple books in which that topic was discussed, and rather than going back to that specific book, if you even have that book still, and finding the notes you wrote inside of it or the highlights that you made, if you know, oh, I just have these 1, 2, 3 notebooks that contain all my notes that I've ever read, it'll be so much easier to find. You will know exactly where to find it, and with a separate notebook away from your notes, you will be able to integrate all the learnings in your life because you have every single piece of knowledge you've garnered from your analytical reading in one spot, and it'll just make it way easier to apply rather than mentally knowing that you have things that you want to apply that exist in a bunch of different books throughout your home, throughout, you know, multiple homes, whatever it is. And when you're taking notes, I don't mean like take notes on every line or every chapter of a book. I mean you're analytical reading because you want to learn something or you want to apply something into your life. So when you're reading, take out the main points that resonate with you, that teach you something, whatever those main points are that you want to remember, and you write those down. And then the examples you can write underneath them are examples that resonate with you. They could be things that were explicitly given as examples in the book, or they could be thoughts that arose when you read something and ways you want to apply it into your life that the book didn't even mention, but it was a thought that point had created for you. And it's really important that you remember these things because this is why you were reading in the first place. So writing those thoughts down, those emotions, the way it made you feel, the way it made you think, anything that is relevant to your education, your learning process, not just the book, write it down in your notes. And finally, step 7 is to implement your notes into your life. This is something I mentioned multiple times throughout this video, and I'm going to end on it because it is so important. You can read as many books as you want. If you are not actually applying what you are reading, why are you reading them? If it's merely for pleasure, if you are picking up a nonfiction analytical book merely because you enjoy the process of reading it and you don't care to grow from it, gain education, improve because of it, any of that, then that's fine. You can just read it and not take notes and not implement. But if you actually want to improve your life, and that is why you're picking this book up, whether it's your life, your business, emotional, physical, spiritual state, whatever it is, you need to be implementing. And the way you're going to be doing that is really understanding the concepts on a deeper level and applying it into your life. Taking notes is my process, and then taking those notes, thinking about them, reflecting on them, thinking about how I can integrate it into my life, and then actually taking those ideas on integration and plotting it into my to-do list or my agenda. If it is scheduled in there, along with my work things, along with my studying things, I will do them. If I write it down and I have to cross it off a list in order to show that I completed it and made it a habit because I completed it for 21 days straight, I will do that. And it is so important that you do this. This is the most time-consuming, energy-taking part of really reading an analytical book and allowing it to actually impact you on a deep level. It's the actual integration. But once you've created a habit based on the learnings that you have taken from the book, you can fully say that you read a book, you absorbed it, you understand things that it taught you, and it has changed your life. So that is it for this video. That is truly the bare bones of how to get the most out of every single book that you read. I hope you enjoyed this so far. If you made it to this point, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and let me know in the comments if you made it this far. If you enjoyed this video, you must check this video out. It's all about how to read faster and how to speed read, basically how to read more books than you already are. It's a really, really great video. Thank you for watching this far. I will see you in my next video. I hope you have a beautiful day, wonderful day filled with laughter and love and light and so much more abundance and peace and gratitude and just many, many things. Anyways, I will see you in my next video. Bye.